This is my brother Dan.
Hey, Tom.
General manager, head of packaging.
Green Thumb.
Yeah. This is where it starts for me. We got our grains here. We got base malt, crystal malt, roasted malt. That all depends on how hot they cook it to.
Right.
To kiln it. We have a silo in back for our base malt, so we just auger it in the fancy lab.
Ooh.
So we can take yeast cell counts and like if there's sediment in the beer, we can figure out what it is and how it got there. Big ride on the elevator.
Oh boy.
This actually used to be operated by the horses.
There you go. Schlitz.
We keep Schlitz in the fridge upstairs to appease the spirits.
Yes. It's probably...
It is a creepy building to stay overnight in, that's for sure.
So, seems pretty laid back. Everybody's here working.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's like no production run going right now. Are you guys kind of you're in between runs right now, or?
Fridays we try and keep it easy because they do the tours on Saturdays. So we're
okay.
expected to make the place look good for the tours.
Got it. So do you have something prepared that you're actually going to brew today?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to do our wheat beer. But use one of our other yeasts.
Wheat in the top. So this is homebrew style.
Yeah.
1/3 wheat, 2/3 malt. Is that what you said? What we have. See it saturate.
Slightly mix it so you don't get any dry pockets. And usually cover the grain bed with about 1 inch of water. As you're pour lofting, you lose water to absorption. You always kind of want the top of the grain bed to be covered, otherwise water might funnel through a spot that won't be hitting the whole mash.
Smells like malto meal.
Doing the pour loft where we pull the liquid off the bottom and drop it over the top. Throw this hose in there to keep it kind of circulating. It doesn't do good at heating stuff up, but it can maintain your temperature once you get it there. So you put in the target temperature you want your grain to be at 154. The wheat beer.
We've been cooking for an hour.
Yeah, so we boil off for an hour. Keep the mash 154. Now we're going to get this water to boiling 68, 170. 70, so we can start sparging. And running off the work into the kettle.
Start what? Spard?
Yeah, it's called a sparge, where you put the water over the grain bed and rinse the sugar out.
Oh, okay.
So here, before it's fermented, it's called wort. It's the sugar water.
Okay.
When we're filling the kettle, there's certain marks, like usually I want to cover this clamp at 30 minutes, kind of the same as on the big system. There's certain marks you want to have filled by. Now, this is pretty primitive. Some you can buy an attachment so it looks like a basketball rim, and it has holes in the bottom so it drips evenly around the grain bed. So that's why I usually just spread the water out like this. Get a good inch or so above the grain bed. Keep it covered. Fill it up, let it drain. You see the grain bed up here, put more water on. That smells good. Taste it. It's like bottom of the cereal bowl, kind of. A little hot, maybe. So this is what the grain looks like when you're done sparging. It's like oatmeal.
Yummy.
And we fill our volume in the kettle. I'm trying to get 10 gallons worth to put in the carboys to ferment. Usually we fill it to about here, because when it starts fermenting, it foams up.
And then how long you got?
You gotta have a blow off too, so if you just use like this
Yeah.
airlock, look at it, it took off,
Yeah.
popped it right out. So we just started using this defoamer. And it helps you boil better. If you don't get a good boil, you can get off byproducts that come through. You take the gravity before it's boiling. There's a refractometer. It does the same thing as the test tube. Smaller sample. Twice as expensive. And then you'll notice when it starts to actually boil, that foam will start coming out. On the big system, we gotta spray it down with a hose without messing with the steam too much.
Yeah.
Ruin the boil. But out here, you can just turn the flame down and let it rest. It's called a fob. When it first starts boiling and all that foam comes up. So it's like 210, 211 right before it boils.
Yeah.
That's when the fob happens. And then it's called the hot break once that foam drops out. You just see the rolling boil. And once it stops foaming, that's when you add your first hop addition. First hop additions are bittering. Because it's in there the whole boil, and you get more utilization of it's called alpha acid. Is how they determine how bitter or strong the hops are. So you get your bitterness at the start, and then if you want more flavor or aroma, you throw them in about 30 minutes, 20, 15. But because whenever you put a hop in, it'll start boiling over again. It's the reaction. So that's why in the big kettle we can only do first and last.
Okay.
So if you put them in the middle, it'll be uncontrollable. You have to spray it down too much.
So you didn't put no hop in yet?
Some people do, it's called a first wort hop. They'll put hops in the bottom of the kettle, and then when they start running off,
Oh, okay.
you get extra hop flavor. I've never tried it. I'm not a hop head, so I don't really use a lot of hops. I tried my first IPA a couple weeks ago. I made a black IPA.
What's IPA?
India Pale Ale.
Yeah.
It's the original story is the British found out they could use hops in the beer and it acts as a preservative. So when they were colonizing India, they would brew India Pale Ales, but eventually became the name.
Yeah.
Because it would last a long distance. So boil started, take your gravity, you know what you started with, and then you can figure out how good the boil was. We boil for 75 minutes. Smell this. It's called Chinook.
Oh yeah. Hops.
So you bitter with a higher alpha acid hop, just because you only need a little bit, and it does the work. And then the hops you add later usually are lower, unless the IPA will still use high alpha hops. That looks good. It's a fining. So you drop it in, 5 minutes left in the boil, and it helps drop all that extra sediment or hop. Helps it settle out of the beer, so when you transfer it, you're not bringing all that stuff with it. And these are the finishing hops. East Kent Goldings. British hops are a little more earthy, spicy.
What's this?
It's a Kent Golding.
Yeah.
So like the Chinook, I believe, is like a West Coast variety.
Yeah, it definitely smells different.
More citrusy. And this is like, yeah, it's got that earthy, almost peppery.
All right.
We got 5 minutes left. I boiled a little extra. We're just gonna get that gravity up. We've already almost boiled off 2 gallons. That was great. 5 minutes left in the boil. We put the finings in. It's like apple seltzer.
Nice.
Take a last gravity reading before it's done boiling, in case you need to extend the boil. This is called an immersion chiller. Obviously, because you immerse it. But we do have a little tiny version of the heat exchanger. And it does the same thing, it'll cool it down in no time.
You want to keep the steam in there?
More or less trying to keep things out of there.
Oh, okay.
This is the point in the process where you have the biggest chance of some kind of infection. So you want to chill it as quick as you can right when you're done. Because if it's not boiling, it's exposed to the atmosphere. So. some reason 70 is optimum temperature for all yeast to start. Pressure first and shake it up. So when you shake it, you might get a little more pressure. Just like a shaking up soda bottle that can come out the top.
Trying to keep that full of water?
Yeah. Then it just basically siphons itself.
Siphoning action, that's why?
Pitch the yeast and start transferring the work over right away. Aerate it. This is the old school way. You just shake it.
High tech. Now you got your workout. That's why you need the siphoning action, because it's drawing it up from below the screen. So what effect does it have, having all that enough yeast for a full batch when you only got that much in it?
Probably ferment quicker.
Just that's it?
Yeah.
Doesn't change the taste much, or? No?
Not really. Better to have a little more yeast than not enough. So it's basically a lager yeast that ferments at ale temperatures. So that's what makes it special. Steam beer.
So that's it.
A little over 5 hours, but close. Like a regular ale, usually set a week.
Oh. Is there any fermenting now? No.
See the drains off the top, and we're gonna blow up bucket. That's just bleach water. Keep it sanitary.
How long has this one been in?
Come in. This is a pale ale. And then like lagers ferment at least 10 days, or at least our lagers. You know, if you get into the Belgian styles, sometimes you can ferment for 3 weeks. Once it's done fermenting, check the gravity, which you take a sample of beer. So we use the hydrometer, and it'll float based on the sugar content. And it finally evens out. You take the number that it's showing, multiply it by 4. When it's done fermenting and we pitch the yeast, and we're not going to use the yeast anymore, then we'll keep pulling off the bottom of the tank, get all that yeast off the beer. Especially on the lagers, because they sit for 4 weeks before filtering. This is our new toy DE filter. Although we don't use diatomaceous earth, we use a silicate-based. We used to use an old plate and frame filter that wineries usually use. It's like cardboard filter pads that would sit in between the plates. Then we got this. There's filter plates here. And the perlite comes through, and you coat these plates with perlite, because what that media does is like the yeast and hops and all those other unwanted particles will stick to it. And then we'll push it to our bright tank, where then they can carbonate it, get it ready for packaging. 1 bottle at a time.
They feed them?
Yeah.
Manual feed?
We labeled them, stack them here, throw them on this little rack right here, which you flip over, toss on the bottling machine. So this is the sanitized rinse. We'll spray the sanitizer up, pull it off, drain it, slide them onto the bottler. It's just a 12-ounce bottler. So throw your bottle caps in here, and this magnet picks them up, drops them down the slabs. So then Danny feeds it, Tom stands over here, takes them off, dries it, puts it in the case, stacks it on the pallet.
Easy rider.